Hi, folks. It's Jeffrey Daugherty back again, just trying to make sure and see if I'm actually live and broadcasting at this point, because we did roll out some new technology. I'm just trying to figure out if I did roll it out. Oh, it looks like we are. It looks like we're broadcasting wall to wall and treetop tall. So glad to hear it. This is the original teachings of the Christ. I think that we're finally going to find a situation that works for us here as far as our technology goes. But I think this is going to be very helpful. We're going to talk again tonight about the original teachings of the Christ, picking up on where we left off last night. Remember, last night we were on Mark chapter 4. We talked about the mustard seed. And today we're coming back into this, still in Mark chapter 4. We're going to finish up. I'm liking this. This seems better. And only problem is I can't really go to the chat room again unless I go to the chat room. But that's okay. This is good. We can still have some interaction. We can get into the scriptures. And so let's go down and let's jump right in. Remember, we talked about the mustard seed on yesterday. So let's go ahead and talk now about Jesus stilling the storm. So what we read is that the same day, I guess that means it was the same day that they were talking about the mustard seed, right? So the same day when the evening was come, Jesus said, Yeshua said, the Christ said to them, let's pass over on the other side. Let's go over to the other side of this body of water. And when they sent away the multitude, they got in the ship, and they were also with them other little ships. So there was a few ships out there, it looks like. It wasn't just one ship. So there was a few ships out there, and there arose a great storm of wind, and the waves beat into the ship so that it was now full. They thought they were going to sink. And in the hinder part of the ship, asleep on a pillow, was the Christ. And they said to him, Master, don't you care that we're about to die? And he arose, and he rebuked the wind, and he said to the sea, Peace, be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And then he said to them, Why are you so fearful? How is it that you don't have any faith? And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, What kind of man is this that even the wind and the sea obey him? That's probably one of the more familiar scriptures, or one of the more familiar stories in all of scripture to us. And yet it almost seems like we don't really understand it, because obviously the Christ is saying, what's wrong with these people? Why aren't they getting it? And it's pretty obvious that the disciples did not get it, because the Christ was saying, hey, man, what is wrong with you guys? Why aren't you seeing this? Why aren't you getting this? Why are you so afraid? Why is this just not something that you're clicking into? Trying to make some adjustments on the fly. Why isn't this something that you're clicking into, fellas? And for some reason they weren't. And, I don't know why, but it seems like we don't really click into it either sometimes. But at any rate, let's take a look at this passage and let's try to find out exactly what was going on and what the Christ is trying to teach us by the inclusion of this within Scripture. And I think this is not dung. I think this is diamond. Let's go ahead and take a look. I mean, there's not much to see here. They got into a boat. They went out and there was a great storm of wind. The waves were beating in the ship, so it was full. And then in the back of the ship, the Christ is asleep on a pillow. I mean, think of the contrast. The disciples who were used to being with the Christ, I mean, they followed him for years, right? And they're used to knowing what's going on. They're used to understanding him, and they're freaking out. I mean, these should be guys of faith. Now, it doesn't say if Mary Magdalene was in the boat or not. So I don't know if Mary Magdalene was raising a fuss as well. But at any rate, they were really upset. They go back to him, and they've got to wake him up. The Christ is sleeping. while the disciples are freaking. That's very interesting. He's just chilling, and they are having a conniption. They're like, Master, don't you even care that we're about to die? Let's go and take a look at that. Let's zero in there, like on verse 38. So we're going to go ahead and zero in on verse 38 in the interlinear. And we're going to see, and maybe break this down a little bit and see what we can see. Mark 4:38 in the interlinear. And let's move me out of the way. And let's get into this Mark 4:38. And he was, so we just did the Hebrew last time, so I'm used to Hebrew in it, but we're going to go Greek this time, left to right. And he, who is the Christ, was in the stern of the ship. So those of you that aren't sailors, the stern is the back of a ship, the rear of a ship. That's the stern, and the front is called the bow. So I don't know if you'll ever use that information, but there you go. So he was in the stern, and he was on a cushion. He was just chilling on a cushion, a pillow, a cushion. That's so funny. He's just sitting back there chilling out. He's on a cushion and he's asleep. Let's take a look at this word and see if he was actually sleeping, or if he was just, maybe it didn't mean sleeping. But here he was, and he was sleeping, bro. He was sleeping, sister. He was in bed. He was sleeping. He was crashed, man. So the disciples are freaking out. The Christ is sleeping. And then they awakened him. They woke him up. They aroused him. They raised him up. It's like they had to arouse him. They had to shake him almost. He's in the same boat they are. He's in the same situation they are. And yet they got to Egerio him. They got to wake the Christ up. They got to say, man, don't you even care? So they got to go and they got to wake him up. Well, there's a lesson in there. He was sleeping. They awoke him and they said to him, teacher, master. So really, if you read it as teacher, I think it's going to help us with the rest of the verse. So they said to him, teacher, why aren't you concerned? What's this word concern mean? To have a concern, to have anxiety. Lord, why aren't you the Christ? Why aren't you experiencing anxiety? Why aren't you apprehensive? Why aren't you worried? Now, I don't want to get in your business and make you feel bad, but how many of you, how much time do you spend in your day with anxiety? How much time do you spend in your day feeling apprehension? How much time do you spend in your day filled with worry? How much time do you spend in your day full of cares? Now, I'm not trying to belittle the situation that you're in, because I don't know the situation that you're in. But here's a guy that was in a boat that was full of water that was about to sink. Probably the only dry thing in there was that cushion. And not even, he may have been laying here soaked with rain. He had the right to be anxious. He had the right to have anxiety. He had the right to have apprehension. He had the right to worry. He had the right to have the cares of the world on his heart, but he didn't. He was sleeping in the back of the boat. He was about to die, literally, physically, minutes from death. The next time you feel yourself being overcome with anxiety, apprehension, worry, doubt, the cares of the world, if you're not minutes from dying, then you can find peace like the Christ found here. Remember, the Christ said that when you get this right, you'll have peace, and peace that passes all understanding. It didn't make sense. They couldn't understand why he had peace in the midst of it, because he had the peace that was passing understanding. Wow, that's good stuff. I leave you the peace that passes all understanding. I leave you the peace that lets you sleep in the back of a sinking ship like a baby. Again, I don't want to try to get in your business. I don't want to try to bug you, but the Christ said he left that peace with you. Are you living in that peace? Are you daily abiding in that peace? Or are you anxious, apprehensive, and just downright scared? Well, the Christ said that you can find your place, you can find your peace. And they're like, why aren't you apprehensive? Why aren't you anxious? Why aren't you worried that we're about to perish? Be destroyed. We're about to be destroyed. We're about to fully be cut off. Why aren't you worried? Well, I think he was probably not worried because he knew that the ship wasn't going to sink. He probably knew what he was going to do. And he was just getting every bit of sleep he could, because, I mean, if you're the Christ, you don't get a lot of chance to sleep because there's always people knocking on your door, on the flap of your tent, whatever. Here he was out in the middle of a lake, really. I believe it was the Lake of Gennesaret. He was out there and he had the chance to actually get some sleep. And he knew the ship wasn't going down, or he knew he was going to wake up and say, peace, be still. So he was getting every bit of rest he could. So he wasn't worried because he knew it wasn't going to happen. And then you know what? He knew that even if it did happen, death is nothing to be afraid of. It's just a promotion, really. It's just leaving this station and going to another one. If you got yourself dialed up and dialed in and you know what's going on, you know where you're going. So there's really no reason to have anxiety, worry, doubt, fear, even if you're moments away from death itself. Let this mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus. Let this mind be in you that was also in the Christ. Forget that J part I put on there. Don't you even care that the ship is about to go down? What's wrong with you? Why don't you care? Why aren't you worried? How can you have peace in the midst of all this mess that we're in? Well, he talked more to him and he said, listen, guys, he rebuked the wind. He said to the sea, be still. And they fell, and there was a great calm, right? So he got up, did the thing that he was probably going to do anyway, so he wasn't worried. And he's like, dudes. Why, dudes, are you so fearful? Why don't you have any faith? And if you notice here, to the degree that you got this, you can't have that. To the degree that you have this, you can't have that. To the degree that you have this, you can't have that. And To the degree that you have this, you won't have that. Even if your boat is filling with water, even if you're in the middle of a Euroclydon, that's what they call these storms. Even if you feel like you're going down for the last time, you're circling the drain the last time, and you're sure you're about to go under. As long as you have this, you won't have that. And you know what? Just because you have this and you don't have that, it doesn't mean that you won't have an outcome that's not what you wanted, but it means that you won't ever have this. To the extent that you're fearful, you can't have faith. And the more faith you have, the less fear you will have. So we can live in a state of faith that has no fear. Fear doesn't mean that you're bulletproof necessarily. It usually works that way. But the more faith you have, the less fear you have. And fear and faith are mutually exclusive. So the Christ said, why are you guys fearful? Oh, man, he just hit him, didn't he? He wasn't like, oh, guys, it's all right. I mean, yeah, I know the wind's blowing and I know that you probably are really scared. No, he said, why are you a bunch of cowards? Why are you a bunch of timid? Why are you a bunch of poussoirs? It's 2:30. Why are you cowards? Why are you timid? Why are you fearful? Well, they had just woken him up from a well-deserved nap. And what he said to them is, why are you fear-driven? Why are you fear-driven? And I would ask you, why are you fear-driven? You know why? Because you got all these idiots running around telling you that the Antichrist is going to come, telling you the rapture is going to come, you can't miss it, telling you about the tribulation, telling you about the rebuilt temple, telling you about the red freaking stinking heifer, telling you about tribulation, trials, and oh my God. You're fear-driven because you allow these people to drive you into fear. That's why this whole September 23 Revelation 12 sign is nothing but Jesuit-inspired, I showed you this, fear porn. Why do they want to keep you afraid? Because they want to keep you running back to them as the only source of protection. And Christ was saying, why are you dudes so fear-driven? Why are you dudes dreadful, meaning full of dread? Doesn't mean you got dreadlocks. It means you're full of dread. Why are you losing your moral gumption? Why are you losing your moral gumption? Why did all these people that are running off after signs and spectacular things in September 23, rapture, why have they lost their moral gumption? Why have they lost their ability to hang on to the historical teachings of the church? Why are they leaving the teachings of the leaders of the Protestant Reformation and running after teachings of the Jesuits? Why? Because they are fear-driven. Why? Because they are full of dread. Why? Because they don't have any moral gumption. Why? Because they're wicked and adulterous, like the Christ said. Why? Because they don't have any patience, like we learned yesterday. Why? Because they're filled with lust. I want something new. I want something exciting. I want something different. I want something spectacular. I want something I can make some money off of selling books. And why are you guys so afraid of losses? You know, I quit a job where I was making ridiculous money. I mean, double figure, six figures, crazy money. Double figure, six figures. No, not double figure, six figures, but in the hundreds of thousands. And I get a call from my friend, what's the matter with you? You're giving up all this money, now you're broke. And I said to him, how much is your mortgage? How much is your cars? How much are your Harleys? And it came out that he had to make like $15,000 every month and he was leveraged to the gills. And I had $500 in my pocket. Who's broke? He was fearful of loss. I wasn't. And I'm not. You're faint-hearted. You're faint-hearted because you have a dread of losing. Oh, I'm going to lose my big house. I'm going to lose my fancy car. I'm going to lose my jet ski. I'm going to lose my RV. I'm going to lose this. I'm going to lose that. I'm going to lose my trophy wife or my trophy husband that I don't really love anyway. You know what? If you just let this stuff go, you don't have to be fearful of losing it anymore. I live in a I guess they're called mobile homes, in a mobile home park. I do have an RV to travel around and do what I do, but I live in this place and everything I own's in here. But guess what? I'm not fearful of a loss. If a hurricane came and blew this thing away, I'd be upset, but I'm not fearful of it. I'd be like, oh, well, it's only stuff. If we get the fat cat out, I'm good. So I'm not faint-hearted worrying about losing stuff. Not fearful of losses. So I don't fall short of my devotion to the Christ. I'm not cowardly. I'm not fearful. I'm not afraid. But I've had to take steps to get myself to that position. Why don't you have any piston? I wonder if Jerry Browning's in there. Why don't you got any pissin? Any piston? Because we don't say be less anymore because it means to be smeared with sacrificial blood, probably human. So why don't you have any pistis? And look at this, it's feminine. Why don't you have any faith? Why don't you have any belief? Why don't you have any trust? Do you really think I brought you out here in the middle of this lake to drown you? No. Well, then why are you worried? Do you really think that the divinity has brought you this far to drown you now? And if you did drown now, do you know you got a plan for what to do next? Well, then chill. Why? Oh, why aren't you persuaded? Why aren't you persuaded? Why don't you have that peace that passes all understanding? You know why? Because you've not taken it, you've not accepted it. Because you're too busy worrying about your stuff. Why are you so fearful of losing stuff? Why don't you have any perseverance and faith? Why? Even if it is a storm, why worry? Sorry about this. And he mic dropped him again and he just walked away. And I mean, look at this, verse 41. He said, why are you fearful? And what did it make him do? They feared exceedingly. Fellas, can't you work with me a little, a little bit here? Really? I just told you not to be afraid and you're going to respond with great fear. Really? Let's look into the Greek and hopefully maybe these fellas didn't actually respond with fear when he said, don't be afraid. And they feared. They were terrified. With fear. They were terrified with terror. Great. They were terrified with great terror. Or were they? I mean, I don't think these guys were stupid. Let's look a little deeper. And they could have been fearful even after he said, don't be afraid. But is it possible that they had great reverence? Is it possible that when he said, don't fear, and they realized what he was saying, that they had great reverence? You see, all of these words are acceptable translations of phobeo. I think that it was reverence. I think that they had reverence. Once he explained it to them, once he freaking calmed the sea and the wind, they had reverence. Reverence and respect. They're like, dude, props. They had reverence and respect. Not only reverence and respect, but they had reverence and respect in the widest possible sense. They're like, was it Richard Pryor in the 10 Commandments or one of those Monty Python movies? Richard Pryor. This was before the whole freebasing, burn myself up like a human torch, Richard Pryor. And that guy was funny. I know he was dirty, but he was funny. It was when I spent a lot of time being a stand-up comedian, and he was, wow. But I remember he was playing Moses. He's like, the man was phenomenal. That's what they were. They're like, this man is phenomenal. They had great respect for him in the widest possible sense of respect after he calmed that sea, calmed that air. But you know what? The greatest thing might have been calming those silly, fearful disciples. Man, this guy is something else. Even the wind and the sea listen to him. Even the wind and the sea obey him. Even the wind and the sea hearken to him, answer to him. Dude. And you know, John was a disciple. And John is the final message, wrote the final message to the last apostle. And John was in this boat. And John was in this boat. John was one of these ones that didn't have any fear or didn't have any faith, was fearful. But 40, 50 years after writing this, John wrote some other words that you'll recall. He said, now I just completely lost my train of thought. What did John say that I'm talking about? Oh, John said that we would do the things that Christ did, and even greater things would we do. The same guy that was afraid in a sinking boat was now saying, that's nothing. We're going to do even greater things. Because John had that comforter activation. John had his analytical mind dialed up. Wow. That's some deep stuff. That's some powerful stuff. That's worth the price of admission right there. Especially when the admission is free 99. Wow. Powerful. Let's see if we can see the, we can. Here it is. Here it is. Let me move over here. Let me make myself bigger. So it's like we're together. How about that? Hi, guys. Hola, amigos and amigas. ¿Qué pasa? All right. I am live, Chen says. Yep. Hello from Arizona. Robin Anaya. I have a friend named Jonathan Anaya here in Florida. I wonder if you are related. No pictures on. Can't sleep. I sleep from 4 till 7. And then I'm supposed to be 3 till 7. I'll be a little bit late today. Good day. Good to be here. Greetings from Seoul, South Korea. Truth Diver, you're the one that's buying the books, aren't you? No, there's a person in North Korea. I shouldn't say that probably. Let me take that back. Anyway, There's a parallel in Jonah. He was sleeping on the boat, and they had to rouse him. You do not care, man. You're about to perish. Huh? That's interesting. Hello, Renaissance woman. He had peace because he knew himself. "4 p.m. where you are." I'm not afraid, but I do worry too much. Well, this should be some good inspiration for you, Truth Diver. There's a good saying, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. Yeah. Wasn't we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Was that Churchill or was that Roosevelt? I think it was Roosevelt. Thank you, Carmen. Pistis Sophia, exactly. I couldn't remember that completely, Patrick, but you're right. Pistis Sophia. That's what it is. It's exactly what it was. Thank you, Truth Diver. Just out of curiosity, when the storm clears in the south of you, look at the moon and tell me if after a few minutes you see a light blue hue around the moon as if an image is overlaid on it. Okay, I'll do that. Smoke break. All right, Dave. The Seed of Fear. Sydney, Australia. That's interesting. I like that, Recovering Soul. Whoops. I don't know why it does that to me. Carmen Gibbs from California. Aussie accent. Didn't know you were back again. Hey, Nona. Happy to see this title. I bought a bunch. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. With these weird hours, he can reach the whole English-speaking world. Yep. Have no fear. There is a doctor in the house. Dr. Illusion. The only fear we have is the fear to fear itself. Yeah, Franklin D. Roosevelt. Thank you. I was right. Ding, 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 ding. I used to worry. Then I realized I had a choice. You do have a choice. Laugh in the face of fear. Ha ha, I laugh in your face, fear. It's just like nobody makes you mad. You decide to get mad in response to certain stimuli. No one makes you cry. You decide to cry in the face of certain stimuli. You know, I mentioned that I used to do a lot of stand-up comedy. I've been paid a lot of times for it, so I'm fairly proficient at it. One time I did bomb, and he was afraid he couldn't walk on water. I'll tell you this little story. One time I bombed because I was in this little bitty club. There's like 50 people there, and about 35 of them were in this one birthday party. And this lady, I had a joke that usually slayed them, and it was, you know, you can't really pull jokes out of context, so don't be judging me. But it was like, it was something like, why did Jesus walk on water? Well, how's he supposed to swim with those holes in his hands? Didn't go over well with her and that whole table. And I bombed over that. So, yeah. He knew he could walk in water, but anyway, there you go. The worst moment of my comedic career. So there you go. I think that's kind of a slap in the face, kind of that, remember the old commercial, thanks, I needed that. It's kind of a rude wake-up call, but yet it gives us, you really can't see me? How is that possible? How is that possible? Oh, well, we're talking. We're talking. Yeah, I don't know how to do this thing yet. I just paid for this. This is Zoom. I just got this. If I make it full screen, then I can't read the comments. So I'll get this figured out. This is obviously working a lot better. This works a lot better than what I've been doing. The sound is good. I'm able to do most of what I want to do. So I'm pretty happy with this. So I just need to learn to use the Zoom a little bit better. This is what Rex uses, and this is what Heidi uses. So I finally decided to convert. So I think it works better at any rate. And we will, do this and keep this. And I do appreciate you being here. I'll stop the share. How about this? Boom. If I stop sharing and just go to, I wonder what that's doing now. If I stop sharing, it should just be all me. I don't know. I can't figure this thing out. But anyway, folks, there you go. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. What are you guys seeing right now? Are you seeing just me? You can't see anything right now? What's on the screen right this very minute? Somebody tell me what's in this on the screen this very minute. Because for some reason, I can't figure out how to see what's on this screen this very minute. You're way up in the corner, huh? I don't know. I don't have any answers. All right, folks. I appreciate you. It's 2:40. It's almost 3 in the morning. What's wrong with you crazy people? Why don't you get some sleep? Corner pick of you in chat. Okay. I don't get it. I'll figure it out, though. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to stop this. Oh, there you go. Now you should be seeing Big Me, right? You seeing Big Me now? Help a brother out. You seeing Big Me? It's only midnight. Yeah, there I am. Okay, cool. So you can see all me right now? Nice. Okay, and then I can see the chat too. So I figured it out. There we are. We figured it out together. Nice to see you folks. Thanks for being here. I really do appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe. If you have questions, please send in questions. If you have answers, please send in answers. Let me know what you want to see. Let me know what you want to hear. And we're going to keep rocking this thing. We're going to keep rocking the Casbah. Am I too late? Well, that depends upon your perspective, Super Niz Skywalker. We are finished, and this will probably be the last video until tomorrow, but man, I'm big on this screen. This is a close-up. Wow. I don't know why people say I look like Gary Busey. That kind of bothers me a little bit. But I guess it could be worse, right? Folks, let's keep unwinding our minds. Let's keep on indoctrinating ourselves. And I got to tell you, and I really mean it, large and in charge, yeah. Those of you that are seeking truth like you are, the former Air Force Staff Sergeant in me does salute you. I appreciate you. And we will see you again on tomorrow. Gary Busey. I think it's the Point Break Gary Busey. Sleep is the cousin of death. People with high IQs need less sleep. Or even me. All right, folks, we'll see you tomorrow. And until then, unwind your mind, unindoctrinate yourselves. I'm Jeff Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower, once again. Salute, adios, and good night. I will not look at the chat room again. I won't start anymore.